All right, let's take a look at the types of epithelial tissue. We start with our simple squamous epithelium, one layer, squashed cells. This is what they look like in the sketch here, and this is what it looks like in reality. A good place to find simple squamous epithelium, there's actually many places to find it. We'll talk about this lots down the line. But simple squamous epithelium makes up the alveoli of your lungs. So if you look inside of your lungs, at the very end points where actual air exchange takes place, you need to allow for a very thin layer of cells to be present there. So simple squamous epithelium allows you to have just one single layer of cells so that oxygen and carbon dioxide can pass easily back and forth. And you can take a look here at the different descriptions, functions, and locations. And just so you know, this is very ubiquitous in your body. Endothelium is everywhere in your body. Endothelium would be found in the lining of many organs, including the lymphatic vessels and the capillaries, and all of your blood vessels, in fact. So look out for that word endothelium, and just keep in mind when we talk about endothelium that it is, in fact, an example of simple squamous epithelium. Here we have our next level up, simple cuboidal epithelium. Very recognizable once you get used to what you're looking for. As you can see, a single layer of cube-like cells. The function here is secretion and absorption. A very famous place to find this stuff is in the kidney tubule cells. And let's take a look at it. Here we have cubes. You know, they don't really look like cubes, do they? The reality is never the same as the ideal, is it? So let's take a look here. What we're looking at are tubes. We're looking at structures that, in this case, this is one that has a cross section. In other words, it's been cut across, it's been cut horizontally. So you can think of this like a straw. Now, one of the things you're going to notice with epithelial tissue is that there's always some white space in there. So look at this. You have white space in the middle. You have pink around. The white space refers to the fact that this is the apical surface here. It is facing the inside of the straw, the inside of the tube. And that down here, it is sitting on, do you remember what epithelial tissue sits on? Connective tissue. So all this pink stuff in between is connective tissue. What else do I want to say about this? So look out for those nuclei. All the little purple guys in there are the nuclei, and they are representing different cells. This isn't the greatest picture of simple cuboidal epithelium, but you can see a couple bricks in there. You can see that defined, like right here. You can see how that cellularity, those specialized contacts, how they're attached to each other very, very much. You're not always going to catch all of the nuclei. So here you have probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cells. Only 3 of their nuclei are showing because when they did the histological slice here, it did not cut all of the nuclei. It only cut the nuclei of these 3 cells. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, the next layer up, no surprise here, would be simple columnar epithelium, the one that is left. This is a single layer of tall cells. You can see here, in fact, that the nuclei do look quite long. This is not what I oftentimes see, but this is a nice way to identify this particular cell. Man, this looks just like the sketch here. I mean, take a look at these cells. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. You see all of their nuclei. They are quite long. They look just like the sketch over here. You can see the function is absorption, secretion of mucus, enzymes, and other substances. You may have cilia. You may have mucus. Here we have some specialized cells that are called goblet cells. The goblet cells here are very recognizable once you know what to look for. So you'll see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cells. And in between here you have a different kind of a cell. You can see that this one is actually open to the space. You see that apical surface up there. And you can see that kind of granular looking stuff that's stained kind of funny. That is mucus. Whenever you have a mucousy tissue, it is going to have goblet cells present. I don't know of any other examples. So goblet cells are always going to be found where you have mucus. In this case, we also have microvilli here. So this is actually found in your small intestine. We'll talk about microvilli in the second semester of this class. Okay, so we have our space up here indicating this is the apical surface. We have our stuff down below here, our pink stuff down here, indicating that this is the basal surface. This is the basal surface. This is the connective tissue underlying the epithelial tissue. Again, we have simple columnar epithelium. In this case, the nuclei look more rounded here. You can see the definition of each cell, that cellularity and specialized contacts. This is found in the stomach rather than in the small intestine, so there's no microvilli here, but there are, and no goblet cells either. But the stomach is just special. It's just special. Okay. Now we have a special kind of epithelium that is not quite columnar, a simple columnar epithelium. It's a little bit different. In this case, this is called pseudostratified columnar epithelium. The term pseudo means false. So it gives the indication that it sort of looks stratified. Do you remember what stratified means? Stratified means many layers. So it looks like, falsely, it is stratified. It looks like it's many layers. But it is in fact only one layer of cells because all of them connect to the basal layer. So here we have our space. So this is the apical surface here. And then down here we have the basal surface because it's connected with the connective tissue down here. And then you have all these crazy looking nuclei that look like they're just packed all around each other and fighting to get to the top. And look at the sketch. It's quite representative of what's going on over here. I know it looks a little bit different, but you can start to kind of see things. So what happens is each of these nuclei are going to represent one cell. Each of the cells are going to attach down below to the connective tissue. And then the nuclei, some of them are going to be closer to the apical surface and some of them are going to be further down below, simply because some of the cells are much shorter. So pseudostratified columnar epithelium tends to be found in places where there may be abrasion or there may be a lot of sloughing off of the cells. In other words, the tall cells might get damaged or die off easily, and then you will have smaller cells to quickly grow and take their place. Okay, you can see function as secretion, mucus secretion. In this case, you can actually see cilia here. This is found in the trachea, which is your air passageway. Cilia are responsible for helping with moving things along in your body. So at the apical surface here, you have cilia. And by the way, if you go back to simple columnar epithelium, do you remember the microvilli? That's different. Microvilli are different from cilia. Cilia are responsible for movement. Microvilli are responsible for something different. They're responsible for secretion and absorption, and they're actually part of the cell. Cilia are little hairs that are kind of attached to the surface of the cell. Okay, so you'll find pseudostratified columnar epithelium lining your respiratory passage. That's usually the place where we think of pseudostratified columnar epithelium being present. Here's another example of pseudostratified columnar epithelium, and again, this is the trachea. In this case, I think the cilia are a little bit more defined. All the other things are true too. I think you can see the nuclei a little better here. This is just a better photograph of the stuff. So you can see some that are quite short, some that are quite tall, but they're all attached to the basal surface. So it's still simple. It's still one layer of cells. All right, here's a closer look at a goblet cell, that's secretor of mucus. So sometimes you'll find goblet cells in columnar epithelium, simple columnar epithelium, and sometimes in pseudostratified columnar epithelium.